All right. Hey, Michael, would you mind praying for us?
Dear Lord, our God and Father in heaven, all glory, honor, and praise be to you. We come before you now at this time as we are about to begin this hour of study. We ask you to please open our minds and open our hearts as we open up your word. We ask you to be with Ryan as he leads us through your word and help us to grow from it and to improve our lives and improve ourselves, that we can let our light shine brighter every day. And we thank you, Father, for everything. We thank you for this opportunity you've given us. We pray through Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. None of that is allowed. I think it's the hour. I said something to Becky about it today, and also Kevin. It's like that extra hour. You wouldn't think that something like that on Sunday would mess me up on Wednesday, but it has. Okay, tonight we're going to be talking about lament. We're in our extra section of the problem of evil, where there's just some extra stuff. I think this is kind of the way that things are looking. We have 3 more sets of Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday. So Sunday, I think the plan is justice. Not I think. The plan for Sunday morning is justice. 1 week from today, the plan is suffering in the light of eternal glory. I think Rob's brought that up several times. There's nothing, as bad as things are in this life, there's nothing in this life that is so bad that it won't just pale in comparison to eternity and glory. That's going to be a week from today. And then we've got 2 classes. I want to do the problem of good, and I want to do a class on forgiveness. And then the last 2 classes, I kind of want you to think about these ahead of time. For the Sunday class before our last one, I want to put together a class. It doesn't really have to be 10 things, but I want to take a summary of what we've done this quarter and make it along these lines. 10 things to remember when suffering happens. I just want to have like some kind of summary, some sort of little package thing. Ideally, I was even thinking like maybe I could even put reminders in the back of my Bible about 10 things to remember. And then this is the one that I'm really kind of excited about. The very last class of this whole quarter is a Wednesday. And I would like that class to be something like this. Now that we know what we know about suffering and evil and God and the why and all of these things, that last class will be, what do we say to people when they're suffering? Like this is the universal, well, everything happens for a reason. This is my favorite. And by favorite, I mean my not favorite. Well, God won't give us more than we can handle, so He must think an awful lot of you that you can handle this really hard thing right now. You know, part of that class should be like, here are some things that we should not say. But what do we say? Like in the light of what we know, what do we say? So that's the way that I'm thinking about the rest of this class. I think there's a couple of those that are negotiable for me. So if there's some other question that you have or something you'd like to talk about, I'm open to diverting, but we're running out of time. So let me know if you do. Okay, lamenting. Tell me what lamenting is. I've got a couple of like formal definitions that I've searched for, pulled out of books, but it doesn't have to be a formal definition. You can just tell me a piece of it.
So I equate it with grieving, and yet I don't know why, and I don't think this is necessarily right, but at least in my mind, I associate lamenting with a public kind of grieving.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I associate it with something done in public.
Yeah. I think that, there is going to be the Psalms are very public. We all read the examples. But there is such a thing also as private lamenting. But yes, you're right that there's a public nature to some of it anyway.
Think about the prophets, they would be very visual, the ashes and the sackcloth, and lamenting over Jerusalem and crying by the rivers of Babylon. It seems like sorrow, but with a very specific purpose of like what you're sorrowful over,
Yeah.
like total helplessness.
Yeah. So what would be the difference? Like what would, I'm just going to needle you just a minute here. What's the difference between sorrow, I am sorrowful, and lamenting? What does lamenting do with that sorrow?
Expressed rather than like held in.
And specifically, so I'm taking that sorrow to God. You got something?
Well, just the Lamentations does loud cries, so I don't know if that's the direction you're headed.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really headed a direction other than what do you think? I've got a couple things up here for you, Paul.
It's almost, it turns into a question, why me? You're asking questions.
So this,
You seem to be kneeling God.
yeah, this is a class because if lamentation was a thing that like we all just naturally had and like no problem, we all lament, it's all good, then there would be no need to have a class about it and talk about it. But I got this class divided into 3 sections. The first is what is lamenting, which is what we're doing now. The second is I want to just show you some Bible examples, and there's a lot of them. We won't look at them all, but Bible examples to see what it is and to see how it works. And I think some of what Paul is talking about here is the why me of like, it's not necessarily crying out to God. It is crying out to God, but there's almost a controversial element. No, not controversial. What's the word I'm looking for? Confrontation. It's almost a confrontational element where it's, oh, my life is really bad. But it's not just letting it be known. It's, God, why is my life really bad? It's the why me kind of piece. What else you got? Yeah.
I think it's also a shift from I got it, I've got it, to I don't have it, I need help, and that reaching out towards God. And again, it may not be in the most productive way, but I think it is in a productive way. I think it's just in not what we would traditionally think about how to approach God.
Yeah.
We can see lots of examples where, why did you let this? Why did this happen to me? It is that release of, I've got it myself, and that asks for help.
Yeah. Almost total, like I'm out of control in every way of this thing. Here's a couple things for you. A passionate expression of grief and sorrow. So Ryan, this is what I was thinking of when you're like, okay, I think of sorrow, yes. But lamenting is the expression of that sorrow. And when I said it a minute ago, it's not just an expression of sorrow, it is a emotional, passionate expression of sorrow. So it's not, hey God, why is this happening? Cry it out. Like it's lamenting. Rob pointed us. When he said lamenting, he was like wailers at a funeral. Like they're tearing your clothes. Passionate expressions. Prayer of complaint. And the complaint is not always about circumstances. Sometimes the complaint is towards God. A prayer of complaint that carries this paradox. It is an expression of deep suffering or confusion directed toward God, who is believed to be both powerful and good. And so I'm suffering, but God is good and God is powerful. I included that definition up here because That's our problem of evil. If God is all good and God is all powerful, then how does evil exist? And right within this definition of lamenting is our problem of evil, which is kind of neat. I like that picture of wrestling with God. It's not just a prayer. My grandpa used to say wrestling. It's a wrestling match. Now that we have got the thing started, you got anything else you want to say about that? Yep.
Is Eloise Lama Sabachthani, is that a lament?
Yes. That's actually on my list of examples. So Jesus, one of the things we're going to look at the very end of the examples is places where Jesus lamented, and my God, why have you forsaken me is one of those. Okay, so before I click to the next slide, can you think of any examples of Bible lamentation? Psalm 22 is a good, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's crying out to God, accusing almost. It's an accusation almost. Can you think of any other examples? Whether you can cite the verse or not, just point me to it.
The multiple deaths of David's sons. There's like a whole collection of laments.
Yeah. So,
Absalom being like, I think the one.
yeah. I mean, and he's like, really. Although, I think of Absalom in the sense of he's crying and wailing, my son, my son. But when he lost his first baby, Bathsheba's baby, he was not eating and praying and fasting for days. That's maybe not as expressive, but you're doing something there. So that's good. I got David in a section later. I'm tempted to go there now, but I want to hold on that. But yeah, that's good. Yeah, Jim?
Jesus over Jerusalem.
Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. That's even silly, the way that I just said it. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. That's like, here are my people that I love. And he's crying over them knowing what's coming. You're going to be wiped off the map forever. Yeah, that's not, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. That's a... Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you got something? Let me start. Job, in this whole class, the problem of evil and suffering, like Job is always the first example on everything. Look at just a couple of these with me. We don't have to read all of them because I would like to spend a little bit of time looking at some of these other examples, and I really want to make sure I'll try and be done by 7:30 so that we can have enough time to do the last section of this. Job chapter 3 and verses 3 and 4. Job has lost everything, including his health. And he says, let the day perish on which I was born, and the night that said, a man is conceived. Let that day be darkness. May God above not seek it, nor light shine upon it. I am cursing the day that I was born. That's an example of lamentation. That's not, oh, I'm really sad right now. It's just like a different level of what's going on here. There's a couple times where he cries out that God is against him. Look at chapter 6. Remember, let me go backwards to our definition. A prayer of complaint. In chapter 6 and verse 4, for the arrows of the Almighty are in me, my spirit drinks their poison, the terrors of God are arrayed against me. Job is crying out, God, why are you attacking me? I didn't do anything to deserve this. And so it's a complaint. It's rooted in a feeling of sorrow and hurt, but it's an outward complaint. probably good for Job. Anything on Job examples? Well, it's not anywhere close to good for Job, but for the purpose of this class, I think I'm going to move on. How about when we think about the Psalms? This is everything else that I'm going to look at. I just threw it up in one thing. Okay, so do you remember last year when I was preaching through the Psalms on Sunday nights? Sometimes, in all of my reading of the Psalm, people always try and categorize the Psalms. This is a psalm of praise. This is a psalm of thanksgiving. This is a psalm of lamentation. And I didn't really do that very much because there's lots of different pieces of each. I don't think the categories are as clear as people want to say. Like this is, and that's true. And the reason why I can say that the categories aren't as clear is because there's no way to look at the Psalms and say, this is a psalm of lament, this is a psalm of lament. It's not like the heading says, hey, this is a psalm of lament. And so because of that, it's hard to come up with numbers. You just got to kind of guess. And so the numbers that I have ended up with are, the bottom number is 1/3 of the Psalms are lamenting, up to 45% of the Psalms are lamenting. But no matter what the number is, lamenting is the biggest category of any other category in the Psalms. All of that is just to say there's a lot of lamenting in the Psalms. So let's go to 13. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone with Psalm 13. It's only 6 verses. The reason why I want to spend some time with Psalm 13 is because I almost feel like Psalm 13 is an example of lamenting, like this is a classic example. But it also shows you the elements of lament. And so it almost should be that Psalm 13 maybe should be the last thing that we do in this class, because once we've talked about lamenting and said, okay, this is something that I can do, this is something that I should do, this is a part of the godly person's life, well then it's like, well, how do I do this? And Psalm 13 is a roadmap for that question. And you only have to remember 4 things. So in verses 1 and 2, you have your complaint. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? So I got a complaint, and my complaint is, God, I'm suffering here. How long am I going to have to do this? And the complaint also is, how long are you not going to do anything about this? It's very confrontational. I'll stop as soon as I'm done with these 4 sections and let you make your comments. So you've got your complaint, and then in verses 3 and 4, you have your request. There's a difference. There's always a difference in griping for the sake of griping versus griping because there's something that you want. Like, I'm not just complaining because that's my spiritual gift, I'm really good at complaining. No, I want something from you. And so in verses 3 and 4, I've got my tangible request. Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light up my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death, lest my enemies say, I have prevailed over him, lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken. So I'm not just complaining to God and about God, I'm asking him for something. Verse 5 is the third part. which is a statement of trust. I think the but is a really good piece of this. But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. So I'm asking God, how long are you going to do nothing about this, God? And then I'm going to finish and say, but I've trusted in you, and I will trust in you. And so, we're going to say that too. And then it finishes with a statement of praise in verse 6. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. I'm not happy with you right now. Like, I feel like you've neglected me and not helped me out right now. But I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to sing your praises, even still. Like, that's the way this communication ends. And so I kind of regret that this is one of the first things that we're doing in this class. But that 4-part roadmap for lamenting is something that's probably worth remembering. Okay, what do you got to say about either Psalm 13 or the pattern and how to do it?
I don't know, it's like you said, it's a third of all the Psalms or anything. I think, I'll speak for myself, my nature is to push it all down, don't let any of it out. So maybe this is a good example, we should not do that, and maybe we should, follow this pattern and try to get through these things instead of just
Yeah.
follow them up.
We got about 6 minutes till we get there, because that's what I want to do. I don't think I'll blow it if I click one more time. The next thing I want to do is to say, what are my hesitations to this? And what are the alternatives to? You did this like, okay, God, well, I feel like you're ignoring me here. Okay, I don't feel so great about that. I don't. I'm telling you. Like, I'm not saying it for the sake of this class. I'm telling you, I don't feel so great about talking to God that way. Okay, so what's the alternative to that? Well, bottling it up. Is that any better? And then what about the answers to those things? So we're headed there, but keep it coming. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, this is probably one of the hardest things, even though, like you said, I'm really good at complaining. It's kind of the opposite of how can a good God exist when there's evil and suffering in the world? It's like, how can I, as a human, bring a complaint to God when he's perfect and he does have everything in his control? And how do I, in my mind, reconcile that with being allowed to bring things to him, being
Yeah.
asked to bring things to him?
Yeah. I think the second thing on my list is like yours plus, he's a perfect God and a good God, and I know that's true. How am I going to bring that to him? And then the second part of that is, when I know good and well that I've created this situation, you know what I'm saying? Like, how am I going to go complain to God when I just sinned with Bathsheba and killed her husband, and I'm not happy about the suffering that I have to live in right now? I don't really feel good about that. So these are some honest things that we need to bring up.
I think this class has been just difficult in general this quarter about questioning God and realizing that he is in control and does allow these things to happen. Like, those are big. Those are huge questions. But then we see that God intentionally includes narratives in his word of people with that same question. And so there's at least some commonality between me and massively big, deep questions about suffering. But they've continued on and they've moved past the suffering.
Yeah. Except for Psalm 88. Let's go there. For the most part. I put on the board up there, Psalm 88, the darkest of all. There is no hope in Psalm 88. There is no statement of praise. There is no, I will trust you anyway. Garrett just was like, hey, what about, you even know the Aramaic language, right? Psalm 22, we know Psalm 22. Psalm 110, we got Psalm 110. You might remember Psalm 88. Let's try and commit it to memory, not the psalm, but just remember. Psalm 88 is the darkest of all. Let me see here. Let's read some of it, maybe all of it. O Lord, God of my salvation, I cry out day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my cry. For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draws near to Sheol. I'm counted among those who go down to the pit. I am a man who has no strength, like one set loose among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, like those whom you remember no more. So that's what he says to God. God, I am like those that you don't remember anymore. For they are cut off from your hand. You have put me in the depths of the pit. How about that one? God, you have put me in the depths of the pit. Not, I'm in the depths of the pit. It's you put me here. In the regions of dark and deep, your wrath lies heavy upon me, and you overwhelm me with all your waves. You have caused my companions to shun me. You have made a horror to them. I am shut in so that I cannot escape. My eye grows dim through sorrow. Every day I call upon you, O Lord. I spread out my hands to you. Do you work wonders for the dead? Do the departed rise up to praise you? Is your steadfast love declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in Abaddon? Are your wonders known in the darkness, or your righteousness in the land of the forgetfulness? And he's like, hey, if I die, I can't praise you there. You can, but he's saying, do something for me now. Do something for me here. Verse 13, but I, O Lord, cry to you. In the morning my prayer comes before you. O Lord, why do you cast my soul away? Why do you hide your face from me? Afflicted and close to death from my youth up, I suffer your terrors. I am helpless. Your wrath has swept over me. Your dreadful assaults destroy me. They surround me like a flood all day long. They close in on me together. You have caused my beloved and my friend to shun me. My companions have become darkness. The end. Yeah, Brendan. Brendan's going, that's the darkest of all the Psalms. Like, there's nothing good in there. Except for one thing. What's the one good thing that you can see in Psalm 88?
Still talking to God.
He's talking to God. Like, he's not cut off. He feels cut off, but he's still crying out and asking for help from the right source. That's a positive thing. I think it's one of our main things that we need to consider about these examples of lament. I'm not going to read any of these others. You can check those out if you want. And if you Google, give me examples of lament in the Bible, there's even more. Anything you want to say about these examples?
Yeah, I was just thinking, a lot of the examples you were going through, and I think there is a piece where you look at, wow, I'm talking to God that way, that's not smart. But I also think then he knows what's in your heart, and even though you may not say it out loud because you feel that's disrespectful, or he still knows.
Yeah.
And I think he makes it clear biblically that he wants a relationship with us. And when I think about relationships, deep relationships with close friends, you do share things that may not always feel good or sound good, because you trust that other person enough to have a relationship with them. And sometimes I turn it around with my kids too. Like, there may be things my kids, I'd rather have them tell me that there's things that frustrate them, even if it's me, than them hold it down and not tell me.
Yeah.
So as a parent or as a father, I'd rather have that be out in the open versus them thinking it and not sharing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a similar father relationship we have with them.
I think you said like 3 different things on my list in that, and all of them it's like, okay, genuine, true, authentic relationships. I mean, what would you think if Becky and I always forget this. I think May is like, how long have we been married? That's what I thought. I was going to guess that. For 25 years, the only thing Becky and I have ever talked about is, sure is cold out there today. How was your day? Good. Me too. My day was fine. Surface level on all things. That's not a marriage. That's not even a friendship. Right? It's like, how are you doing? No. We're going to go deeper. Like, how are you feeling? Why are you feeling? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's authentic stuff. You said something about bottling it up. What does that do? It leads to bitterness and resentment and hurt. Like, no. I'll move through this next piece right here. I'll get to all of the things that you... So, number one, my hesitation. I don't feel good about blaming God for anything. I'm just telling you honestly, like when I think about lament, I've read enough and I've seen enough in the Bible and I have learned enough that this is what God has taught me to do. That's what the Psalms are. He has taught us how to speak in this way. I just don't feel like saying, God, this is your fault, is something that's a normal part of my regular. It feels irreverent in many ways to me. But when I cry out like Job did, I'm acknowledging that God is all-powerful and is in control of all things, which requires faith. And so I'm speaking to him about things that he knows are in my heart anyway. So, anything on that one? I don't want to lament because I don't want to blame God for things. I sure don't want to blame God for things that are my fault, and I know that they're my fault. I'm going to go to Psalm, well, I'm not going to go there because I'm going to run out of time. But Psalm 32 is a really good example of this. Let's do it. I'm still open to Psalms. So if I go over to 32 real fast, shouldn't take long. Psalm 32 verses 3 and 4. Psalm 32 is a psalm that David said after his sin with Bathsheba, which was his fault. Nobody made him do that. And the consequences that came after that are also his fault. So in verses 3 and 4, he's crying out to God. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was dried up as by the heat of summer. He's lamenting here. This is how I feel. This is what I've done. Even though he brought it upon himself. And that whole conversation is when I kept it in, this just ate me alive. But the answer is in verse 5, I acknowledged my sin to you. I did not cover up my iniquity. I started speaking like this relationship turned into an actual relationship. And so, I can still lament even when I'm laying in the bed that I've made. I don't like complaining to God. I don't feel good about complaining. I want my kids to talk to me, but I also say, stop complaining all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference in openness and complaining. And sometimes I just kind of feel like a complainer.
I think too, there's, a lot of the examples of Psalms you went through, there is I don't know if it's professional, there's a tone that they're saying what they believe and feel, but it's not to a disrespectful level. It's not name calling, attacking. It does seem to be
Yeah.
Right? Even though you put me here or whatever, I mean, it's still how they feel
Yeah.
is genuine.
Yeah. On the complaining thing, I'm thinking about the grumbling, the Exodus generation, and we know that God did not approve of that, what they were doing in the wilderness. But I got a neat little chart here that puts them side by side. There is a difference in appealing to God and railing against God. Those are different. The goal is I'm complaining to God, I'm crying out to God for restoration and relief versus rejection and defiance. I'm not saying, fine. I'm calling out to say, help me here. I'm saying, why have you forgotten me? Not, what's wrong with you? You're not all good and you're not all powerful. Those are different.
Kind of thing, it's like, where are you pointing the finger? Am I pointing at like, God help me, or am I pointing at God, why aren't you?
Yeah. The lack of faith thing, I'll just read this one. It may seem to some that lament indicates a lack of faith. After all, how could anyone dare speak to God in such a way? This might have been what you were in. Far from this approach, lament is instead evidence of faith. This is because lament is founded upon at least 3 basic assumptions. If I'm going to lament in a biblical way, it's because 3 things are true. Number 1, there is a God. Number 2, He cares for His people and hears them. Otherwise, why am I talking in the first place? And number 3, He can and will act on our behalf. It's not a lack of faith. It is a demonstration of faith to go to God with this stuff. Next, these are some alternatives. Silent waiting. Raise your hand if you like it when your wife or your kids or your husband gives you the silent treatment. Fine, I'm just not going to say anything. You know? That's probably not what God wants from us. I'm hurting and I'm suffering, and I've got all of these conflicted feelings about the way things are. And here's a father who loves me, and my response is, I'm just not going to talk to you about any of it. That's not the way any kind of relationship works. The opposite of the silent treatment is openness. It's like a pressure relief valve. How about this one? Dry-eyed stoicism, or toughing it out. Stoicism is making a comeback. I've seen a lot of people like media type folks. Not media. People in the spotlight type folks who are reading Stoics, and Stoicism is, I'm not going to get emotional in any direction. I'm not going to get super hot mad, and I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to get happy. I'm just straight face all the time. This is what I would call toughing it out. I'm really hurting right now, and so what's my response? Just tough it out. That's just not the way that relationships work. The opposite of that is intimacy. Openness and intimacy. Or you could just be emotionally numb. That's fine too. Well, it's not fine. My favorite example, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I can't remember the guy's name. My favorite example of Stoicism in the ancient world is this slave, Epictetus. Epictetus was a slave, and he's telling a story about this time that his master was wrenching on his leg. He was mad at him, and he said to him, and you can hear it, he's a Stoic, and he's making the point about Stoicism, and he says, if you keep wrenching on my leg, you're going to break it. And the master keeps doing it, and he says, if you keep wrenching on my leg, you're going to break it, and I'm not going to be useful to you in any way. And he kept doing it, and he broke his leg, and he said, now you've broken my leg. And it's like, I love that's stoicism. It's like, that's just not real life for anybody, unless you're a robot. Toxic positivity. Everything is good all the time, and I'm just going to pretend like there's not a problem. Turn that frown upside down and make it a smile all the time. And sometimes I just don't want to smile, you know? That's not the solution to the problem. Cynicism and despair. Despair, especially hopelessness, is not acceptable. This is Job's wife. Just curse God and die. There's nothing for you anyway in any of this. Here's an alternative. How about a get, fix, quick scheme? That's pretty clever. I need a pat on the back for that one. I'm going to say a prayer and God's going to fix my problem, you know. You think about marital unfaithfulness, or you've lost a spouse, or you've lost a child, or you've experienced real church hurt, like you've been hurt by your church family in some way. You don't say a prayer and get over it. Sometimes we're like, just leave it at the altar and move on with your life. Okay, well, that's not what this is. This is I'm crying out to God, and it's probably not a 5-minute deal. I need to be careful, though, not to slip into blasphemy. I think this is not only the complaining territory that we've referred to, and maybe not like blaming God. There's lots of the Psalms where the psalmist is blaming God and accusing God, but he's not accusing God of being evil. Why have you done this to me is the difference, is different from you are an evil God and what you did is wrong and bad and you shouldn't have done it. That's blasphemy. And we can't do that. And then one last thing that I have on my list, I think this is the last thing, is go to Psalm 73 on this one. I think you need to be careful of your audience. I have heard lots of times through the years where I talk about lamenting, especially in a psalm context, and there's always somebody after the conversation who's like, we should lament more together. When we sing our songs on Sunday morning, when we come together for worship, we sing and be happy. That's what we sing these upbeat songs, and we don't really sing a whole lot of crying, lamenting psalms, even when somebody or a lot of somebodies are hurting in us. And there's a time for lamenting together as a church family. But I think about Psalm 73. We've lamented up to this point, and then we got to verse 15, and he says, if I had said, I will speak thus, I would have betrayed the generation of your children. And I did Psalm 73 last year, so I got a little note next to this. This is what I talked about when I read that verse. I would have betrayed the generation of your children. I wrote, don't give your doubts and your temptations to your kids. Right? And that also applies to not as spiritually mature Christians among us right now. So if you got to lament, lament. And if we're going to lament together, then let's lament together. But that doesn't always necessarily mean that it's Sunday morning and we've got everybody here, including visitors, and we're just going to lay it all out there for everyone to hear. That's maybe not the time for what we're talking about. Okay, anything else that belongs in this conversation? There's a lot more that belongs in this conversation, but this is like an outline of an entire class. like a quarter-long class, not a one class. Okay. Nothing else on lamenting? Everybody feels, Kenna, you're like, all right, I'm ready to go home. And it's hard. Like, this is hard.
I would say even with like Psalm 88, that is by itself not a good picture. That's not the only psalm that the sons of Korah wrote either. You know, it's still just a piece of the puzzle. There are times when we end something with God not feeling great still, but that's not the whole picture of our life with God and our crying out to Him.
Yeah. Yeah. I would put that conversation in the get fixed quick scheme thing, though. I agree with you 1,000%. It's not the only piece of our life. But it may be a season of life. You know what I mean? Like, it may be a year of our life. Which is a long time to have to lament. All right. So for class on Sunday morning, be thinking about justice. The problem of evil and suffering in the world today, and injustice generally, but we serve a God who is a just and righteous God, and we're going to talk about how justice is one of the ultimate answers to the question of evil and suffering. So we'll do that on Sunday morning.